Perhaps you remember being a teenager and having a parent that might have been controlling. And the harder they tried to have a grip on you or tell you not to do something, the more you wanted to rebel and push back against them. This is really the nature of consciousness. When there's a controlling force, there's a force that wants to rebel and fight against. And in this realm of duality, we often end up in these polarized perspectives. And this happens both on an outer level, where we have so many examples of us versus them out there in the world that I don't even need to mention them, though it also happens at an inner level, and this is what a lot of people don't recognize. And for me, this was one of the biggest shifts in my healing. When I was working with a certain addiction, I would notice that one part of me, of my mind, would really insist that I needed this thing to relax or to focus. And then as soon as I did it, another part of me would say, you just messed everything up and I can't believe you did that. And I actually got myself out of there by recognizing that both of these parts of me had my best interests at heart, but both of them were way too insistent and way too forceful with what they demanded I do, up into the point that their conflict between two parts within me became so intense that I could feel that power of an inner war and decided to just really let go. And that brought about a huge shift for me. So this is called, in certain languages, polarized parts. That we have polarized aspects of our consciousness with different beliefs and different perspectives that exist within us. And these parts can temporarily take us over and act through us, and all of a sudden one of the other parts will shift in. And in the language of internal family systems, these parts are called managers and firefighters. The manager will attempt to prevent a negative emotion from occurring, whereas the firefighter will work to push the negative emotion back down once it has come to the surface. And so a managing part is often manifesting as a really critical voice that says, no, you can't do this, no, you have to be very regimented with the way that you approach everything. And the firefighter is the one that wants total freedom and is about to indulge in anything to experience relief from whatever emotion is alive in the system. And in order to bring peace to these parts, we have to talk with them internally and get to become curious. Why is this part of me wanting to control so much, and why is this other part of me wanting total freedom? And as we get in touch with these parts and have compassion for them and have an energy of softness with them, they also begin to behave differently, and they start to find different ways of meeting their intention. This critical part wants to keep us safe, and the critical part must come to understand that if it is causing us so much restriction that we're not being present and enjoying the moment, that eventually this other part of us that is addicted and is rebellious will kick in and fight for its freedom. And when we recognize the intention that, okay, this other part of me wants to feel free, this other part of me wants to be open and able to explore, then we can find other ways of meeting that part's intention that isn't the same negative behavior that kept us in that deadlock between these parts. So this is something that understanding will change your take on everything. And the more you start to see polarity, you'll start to notice that it plays out in our relationships as well. When we're in a conflict with somebody, and we are really insistent on one position in a forceful way, that's activating an energy in them that is attempting to manifest the opposite end of the spectrum of that pole. And that's present in our politics. That's why we call it left versus right. And the more intense one side gets, the more reactive the other side gets. And it plays out in so many realms. And whether we're looking at the microcosm or the macrocosm, it's understanding wholeness, and that these two distinct parts, or these two distinct political parties, or these two distinct trains of thought are part of one whole system. And whenever there's a lose-win situation, it's a lose situation because somebody's losing. That means the whole system is losing. The only true win is a win-win. And it's when we allow for both of the polar extremes to recognize oneness and find that place where they both win and neither has to compromise, that's when we find the juiciest part of healing. So these are things that have been percolating in my system recently, and if you are curious about diving deeper, beyond the channeling and astrology sessions, I do coaching work as well. But of course, these understandings are implicit in how I work with others in channeling and astrology. And I find that we need this sort of holistic awareness and understanding that we are such multifaceted beings to really break through in the clearest way. So, if you're curious of working with me, check out DanteStarshine.com, and I hope you have a really beautiful and fantastic day today.